Hey, how's it going? This is Ralph, and in this video we're going to be working on our first JavaScript homework assignment. So I'm kind of ready here, and I've got a couple of hours available to me. Doesn't mean this whole video is going to be a couple hours long. I'll probably stop the recorder during sections and stuff like that. But I want you to get in the kind of prepared for how I would expect you to work on homework assignments. That means having your space ready and having some time dedicated to it, no distractions, don't have any music playing in the background or anything like that. I just want to kind of take it in pieces and have fun with it, explore, and of course take breaks when you're feeling a little bit overwhelmed and feeling stumped, and come back to it. So yeah, let's go ahead and get started here. And I guess in no particular order, I'm going to start up my VS Code editor. And I already have my folder open and available to me from the previous day, so that's nice. So there's my folder. I've got a few subfolders in there. My main working folder is saved on my desktop. I very creatively called it my CIS 133JS Fall 21 folder, and so far there's just a few subfolders in there. I don't even think I have any files in there. And I got that little practice web page that I was tinkering with the other day. Probably expand on that one as well. Okay, so I'll close that folder, back over to VS Code. Now something that is kind of cool, this wasn't working for me the other day, and you probably can't see it because it's under my camera. I can show it to you this way, I bet. Let's do that, and let's do that. Come on. There you go. So in the bottom right corner of my VS Code, I have my little go live option, so I can run this in a live server, which means a couple good things. And some of you who took 195 very recently, or even 295 very recently, you probably remember that. It's kind of useful. Part of me is thinking it may not be super useful, or at least what I want to demonstrate in JavaScript, because sometimes I like clicking that refresh button in the browser. But I'm going to give it a try. And for those of you who haven't used this before, this is an extension you can get for VS Code. So I've got this extension here somewhere. Oh, there it is, live server. So you might get this to tinker with it. Worst thing that happens is you disable it or uninstall it. So do a search for extensions in VS Code. So when you go to your VS Code, you can search extensions in the marketplace and look for live server. There's going to be a few of them, but the one I'm going to recommend is this one right here. It's got Ritwick Day, R-I-T-W-I-C-K Day. Go ahead and launch that. Now what that's going to allow you to do is once you've got that extension installed, you can do File, Open Folder. You can go and open up your, so I'll be on my desktop and I'm going to open up my Fall 21 JavaScript folder, and then just click Select Folder. That's cool. And then you're going to get this little Go Live option down there. I'm not going to click that Go Live button yet. So what I'm going to do, in addition, I also do have autosave checked. So my pages, my script pages, my web pages are always going to be autosaved. So that's kind of good there too, although that can cause some grief when you're beginning. All right, well, let's get into it. Do I have my folder open? There it is. So there's my folder, and I'm going to start on a brand new file. So let's see, I'm going to do new file. I don't have the assignment directions open yet, so I'm going to have to get that pretty soon. And I'm going to start off right away with, oops, I didn't get my Emmet selection because I need to save this as an HTML file. So I'm going to go ahead and save this right there in the root. And until I know what I'm doing, I'm just going to go ahead and call this assignment1.html. Yep, making an HTML file. That's good. Save. So this is going to be my web page file, and now I can do the Emmet there, bring that down. I got to figure out what this assignment is. Assignment 1. So before I do too much work on here, let's jump back over to our browser. Let's see, I was tinkering with a different class from a second ago, so let's head over to my COCC. I'm going to go into JavaScript. I'm going to go into weekly activities and work. I'm going to click on the first week here. So by the time you're even doing this assignment, you've already done the participation activities 1 and 2. I'm sorry, 1A and 1B. You've already completed the quiz. In fact, maybe you've done the quiz twice and you've are checking that out. You'll be able to review the quiz in detail after the deadline. So since you can take it as late as Sunday night, starting on Mondays, you can go back into the quiz and look at all the questions specifically. And so I'm going to go into Assignment 1, JavaScript Home. Let me go ahead and click on this link to get to the directions. What do we got here? Okay, so there's multiple parts. Dedicate plenty of time to it. You can see there are several parts to this homework assignment. Check out the video. That's the video I'm doing right now. That's weird. So when this video is done, I'm going to put a link to this video right there in the assignment directions so we can work on this together. And I haven't done this assignment yet, so I'm doing it from scratch here, and let's see what's going on. For some guidance on getting started. Yeah. Okay, so part 1, index homepage for your JavaScript class. Web page file must be named index.html. So that's something I'll have to correct here in just a moment and store it in your root user domain folder. So we're going to ultimately publish this page too. And I still, at this point, let's see, what am I doing? I'm doing this video on the Thursday before term starts. And I still haven't made or confirmed web hosting accounts. And obviously time is of the essence here, so maybe I'll work on that later this evening while watching the game, or maybe I'll work on it Friday. But definitely, maybe even Monday, definitely by the time you get into this homework assignment, you're going to have the ability to publish your web pages and your scripts and all that stuff that goes with them. All right. So, okay, then a page must contain this, page must contain that, and that kind of stuff. So let's go ahead and get into it here. And so I'm going to head back over to my code, and there's my assignment1.html. I'm going to go ahead and do this. I'm going to do a file save as, and I'm going to change this out to index.html. We always need to have one index in there. Now, forgive me if I tell you stuff that seems really basic. I'm kind of going under the impression that maybe you haven't done the web dev in a little bit. So we're going to have one index.html file within our main working folder. That's going to be our default home page. That's what's going to load up automatically whenever anybody goes to your website. So that's going to be our main home page. And based on the directions here, if you're taking another class, if you're taking another class where you're using the same web server space, like if you're also doing Web Dev 1, might be one of you doing that, you might want to get with me and I can explain this a little bit more carefully. Or if you're taking, this usually doesn't come up in the fall. But basically you'll want to create a page where you can give the user an option to go to your JavaScript class, or to go to your web development class, or to go to your WordPress class, or if you're doing, obviously in a different term, you might be doing PHP or something like that, or web coding with, like, what is it? Yeah, I can't remember the course now. But yeah, so there's different options, but that's only going to be if you're taking two different classes where you're using the same web space. And that's probably only going to be with me, because the web space you're going to have for my class is probably going to be different than the web space you have for other classes, except for the classes that I teach. All right, so let's see. This page, this is going to be a home page, and it's going to contain, obviously, a headline. It's going to contain a navigation menu that we can use. Make and style some dummy hyperlinks so that way we can kind of see what a navigation menu might look like. Must contain a photo image of yourself, or a picture that represents your style interests. It must contain minimal styling that affects page color. Okay, it's a little bit of styling. So I'm going to walk with you on this for a little bit, and then I'm probably going to pause my recorder while I do a little bit of styling, since that's not too much of our class, but I'll make sure that I come back to the recording and I'll show you my markup just so you can see what I've done, even though I may not, walk you through all of that part. Well, before I even worry about part 2, and I do see there's also a part 3, I'm going to go ahead and work on part 1, which means I'm working on a web page here. Now I will do this. I'm going to open up a new file, save as. This is going to go into my styles folder, and I'm going to go ahead and call this, I'll just call it pagestyles.css. Notice I'm using all lowercase and no spaces. I'm using a hyphen to represent a space, pagestyles.css. So that's going to be my CSS file that's going to control pretty much all the pages I make this term. I'm going to have a few other things though. I'm probably going to have a different style sheet just for form elements. And then of course we'll build up our scripts too pretty soon. And I need a link to it. So link relationship equals style sheet, if I can spell. I haven't done this in a while, so my fingers have to get warmed back up to it. And then href equals, we'll go into styles / and then I want my page styles.css. Now, whether it's scripts or styles, I'm a big fan of doing something really quick that you can test to make sure those files are linked together before you follow up with more work. So I'm going to do this. Generic page styles. Now this is a comment in CSS. It's also used as a multi-line comment in JavaScript. So generic page styles, and then I'm going to have my, excuse me, I'm going to have my reset rule here. You don't need to put this part. Some of you who know what a reset rule is from your earlier web dev classes, you might do it as well. When you're first learning web development and styling pages, the reset rule actually has some good purpose, has a good value, but it can also be a little bit weird, and it's not essential for making really good web pages, so you could skip it if you wanted to. But I'm going to put it in there. Margin 0, padding 0, border 0, box sizing, border box. That looks good to me. And I'm going to do something really obvious that I can see what's going on. Take the body of my page, I'm going to give it a background color that is really light. I'm going to go like, what's CCF? I want to do, that's a light purple. I don't want that. Let's see, I want CFC. I want to do a light green. Yeah, there we go. So really light minty green is what I'm going to go for. That should be enough. So there's my CSS file. It's saved. I'm going to keep that handy. There's my web page. It's saved. And now I'm going to click my little Go Live button in the lower right corner. It's underneath my webcam there. And that's going to launch this page in my browser. And it's going to be live, like my computer here is working like a web server. Obviously it's not published, so not everybody in the world can see this yet, but I can see my blank page and I can see that it's got that minty background. So that lets me know that my CSS file is connected to my JavaScript. And while I'm here, Control-Shift-I is going to open up my my console. This is going to be useful to have when we're working on our scripts and stuff like that. So it's giving me a little error message here, which I'm not too worried about. It has to do with favicons. So I'm just going to kind of ignore that. Not a big deal. Okay, so all right, feeling pretty good about this. So what I'm going to work on next is I'm going to put some stuff in the body of my page. Now I'm probably going to add to this when I turn off my recorder, but I'm definitely going to have H1, and I'm going to put in CIS 133 JS intro to JavaScript. Okay, I'm going to do that, and then I'm going to follow it up with a paragraph that's going to be my name. This would be like a portfolio of your work, and so obviously you're going to put your name on there. All right, I'm going to do that. I'm supposed to have, if I recall from the directions, where are my directions? There they are. Obvious headline for introduction to JavaScript in your name. Yeah. Contain an obvious navigation menu and then a photo. Okay, so for my navigation menu, I'm just going to stick that right down here for now. Set of nav tags, and yeah, I'm not going to do an unordered list. Some of you probably will. I'm just going to go ahead and put in a series of dummy hyperlinks. Actually, I'll show you another little trick here. A times 10. Well, that's not too bad. It put them all in a single row, which is kind of a bummer. It's not really what I was hoping for. I'm going to do it this way. I can't remember if there's a keystroke combination. Haven't done these in a while either. Let me just do it this way. href equals dummy hashtag hyperlink, or let me do this. link to web page. Okay, I'm going to do one of those, and then I'm just going to old school it, copy, and just paste this a couple times. Now I think, can I also do it this way? Nah, I can't do that. Okay, I'm just going to do a handful of these. Okay, so this is going to be my generic navigation menu. Now this isn't going to look that exciting, but if I go to my web page, jump over there, you can see I got those hyperlinks. This is all pre-styling, so I'm not too worried about that. But I also need a place to put a picture on there. I'm going to put my picture up here, I think. Excuse me. Do I want to do a figure? Sure. I'll do a figure. Image source equals images folder slash ralph.jpg alt equals pic of me. Okay, I'm going to grab a quick picture here. Got my trusty phone. Let's log in. Photos, camera. Swap it out. All right, I'm going to take a picture. All right, got myself a picture, and I'm going to, I want to get it over to my computer easy enough, so I think what I'm going to do is I'm going to email it to myself. Should be an option for that, right? Where's my little share button? Share. Now, hold on. I got a new phone, so I'm trying to figure that part out too. Let's see. Let me get my Outlook on here. There's Outlook. Keep original size. To RR. Send it to me. I don't need a subject. Okay. Paper airplane. All right. I think it's done. We'll find out soon enough, I suppose. All right. Oh, there he goes. All right, got that. So let me take this image, save as. There we go. And I'm going to save it to my desktop. I'm going to save it to my JavaScript fall 21. I'm going to go to my images folder, and I'm going to rename this to just Ralph. Save. Perfect. Okay, so I got that photo saved. It's in my images folder. Should be working. So head over there, and there it is. That picture is really, really big. So I need to do this. I need to go back here and resize it a bit. Now, it would be better really if I resize this with an image editor. So let me do that. I'm just going to go into my folder, images folder. I'm going to right click on this, and I am going to open it. Open it with OrphanView, which is a little simple image editor that I will often use. And let's see, I'm going to drag a box around this. So I'll go ahead and Control Y. I'm going to do that. Crop it a bit. Image resize. We don't need to see me that big. I'm going to take this down to about 400 pixels wide. I want to preserve my aspect ratio. Let's try that again. That's my doorbell. Resize, preserve aspect ratio, 400 pixels. And maybe we'll do 500. Click OK. File, save as, and I'm just going to save it back where it was. There we go, images folder. I'm going to save it as a JPEG. And save. I'm going to overwrite the old one. Close that. Don't need that anymore. Close that. Back to the browser. Back to my web page. And there we go. So now my picture's smaller. Now I can still size it up even a little bit smaller too, but I'll just do that with the CSS, I think. However, I'm feeling pretty good about this. So I'm already on track to have this working well. So basically, I think part one is getting there. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to pause my recorder. I'm going to go check my front door. I think it was like UPS or something dropping off some stuff. And yeah, I think what I'll do too is I'm also going to spend a little bit of time styling my index homepage for my JavaScript class, which means I'm going to pick fonts, I'm going to pick some colors, I'm going to do a little bit of layout stuff. So although I'm not showing you that in my recording, I will definitely come back and show you what I did after we're done. And then once that part is done, I'm going to move into part 2, which is going to involve making some scripts that we have never made before. So I'll see you in just a moment. Okay, I am back. So yeah, I did a little bit of styling on my web page here. And let's see, let me jump over to my VS Code. So on the HTML, I don't know if I've done much that's different. Added a class to my figure in there. A little span around the CIS 133JS part. Nothing too shocking, I hope. So I'm trying to keep it as simple as possible, simple HTML structure. I did a few styling things. So let's see, on my CSS, I did import some Google fonts. You don't need to do that, of course, not a big deal. But basically, I went over to Google Fonts and I found 2 fonts. I found a font called Quicksand, I think, something like that. Quicksand, which is going to be my main body font for my pages. But I also found a code font, which I think might look pretty good. Can I click on that? See it? No, I'll show. Oh, is this it? Yeah, this is it right here. So I figure I might use this for like code samples, and I'm going to use it for hyperlinks and stuff, just so it has a different font example. There probably will be an assignment or two where I ask you to display samples of your scripts on your page so that others can easily see it. And it's nice to do that in a more code-friendly font. Code-friendly fonts are typically a monospace font, kind of like Courier New, that kind of thing. Typewriter font, sometimes they're called. So yeah, I did that. Not that I'm using it at the moment, but if you look on my CSS file, there is a place where I said, you know what, all of my anchor tags, any code tags that I use, haven't used any yet, any of my pre-format tags that I use, haven't used any of those yet, they're all going to use that Fira code font or monospace font. Cool. Anything else that I did that's interesting? I changed the look of my headline 1. I've got some span within my headline 1. Changed the look of that. I don't think I did anything too shocking if you've already done at least the 195 course. So obviously you could pause this video and kind of look and see what I did a little bit more carefully. But yeah, I'm not too worried about necessarily the look of your page. I want them to look somewhat styled and nice and easy to read, but they don't have to be fancy at all. So yeah, I'm pretty good with this for now. Pretty happy with it. Not that I won't change it, you know, week by week, add things, replace things and stuff. But for now, I think that's going to be pretty good for part 1 of this assignment. My page is called Index. It's got an obvious heading up there. It's got a navigation menu. List of hyperlinks is fine. It's got a photo of me on there. It must contain minimal styling that affects page background color, text color, hyperlink color, and any other styling is optional. So just a little bit of CSS. All right, now let's get into the real stuff. Part 2 of this assignment. This web page file must be named, okay, so I'm going to make another page, and this one's going to be called assignment1.html and stored in your root user. Okay, so excellent. Now I had that page already, assignment1.html right there. I guess I could just leave it as assignment 1. I'm not going to burn you if the file name is a little bit different, so don't worry about that. I could do a file save as, but I think I'm good with this. So I'm going to do this as assignment. I'm going to leave it as ASN1, even though the directions say assignment 1. That's okay. Stored in my root folder, got that. In fact, I could go ahead and do this. I can go to my index page. Let me put my index page there, and I can do a hyperlink to asn1.html. So I can link from one page to another page. What does that really mean? Well, if I'm on my index page, my home page, and now I click on my link to web page, when I click on that, it's going to take me to my assignment 1 file. Excellent. I'm going to do a couple things here. On my index page, I still have this as assignment 1. I'm going to call this Ralph Phillips homepage for CIS 133JS intro JavaScript. Cool. So that title's a little bit different, and I can also click on this too, and I can change this out to assignment 1 web page. So now when I'm looking at this, I'm going to see assignment 1 web page there. When I click on that hyperlink, it's going to take me to that assignment 1 page. All right, what is that assignment 1 page supposed to look like? I need to be back on the directions. This web page file, assignment 1, it's going to have an obvious headline for script samples. Excuse me. And we'll refer to a single external. Okay, let's do this first. Obvious headline for script samples. So this is where I'm going to go to my index page, and I'm going to copy this, go to assignment 1, paste that in there, and I'm going to change this to script sample. So I'm kind of using this paragraph here as kind of like a headline 2, or a subheading. Although that's probably not the best. It's probably not the most SEO thing to be doing, but I don't think I'm going to be worried about that. I'm actually kind of teaching a bad habit. I'm demonstrating a bad habit for search engine optimization, which is more of a topic in a different class. So I'm going to say that's okay. What is my concern with it? For those that are doing more web dev stuff, that are more interested, I don't like the idea of using the same exact H1 on different web pages within a site. I think the H1 should really represent that unique aspect of this page. So really what this page should be called is script samples. So I'm going to change it out. Script samples. And then for this little sub-paragraph in here, I'm going to go ahead and put in assignment 1 for CIS 133JS intro / JavaScript. Okay, I feel better about that. I don't want to demonstrate something that's necessarily bad. I'm okay with demonstrating stuff that's not best or most professional, especially if it helps with learning, but I don't want to demonstrate something that in real life you definitely have to go and fix right away. Okay, but that's good for now. So, and once I've done that, I can head over to my assignment 1 page. Oh, it doesn't have my styling. So this part I do want to make sure is the same. I want to make sure all of my web pages that I create are using that same style sheet. So this, I guess, doesn't have to be that. I'll put it down below the title if I want. They're all going to have that same style sheet. So now when I'm looking at the script samples, assignment 1 for CS, well, that's pretty long there. I'm going to dial that back to just assignment 1. Yeah, script samples, assignment 1. Cool. All right, I'm liking that. So it will refer to a single external JavaScript file. The JS file will be stored in a script subfolder within your root folder. The script tag that refers to the file can be entered in the head section or the bottom of the body section, depending on the scripts you create. Having the script tag at the bottom of the body will be easier. However, putting the script tag in the head section with the defer attribute is a nice workaround. What does all that mean? Well, here's what it means. No, I'm not going to tell you what it means. I'll show you what it means. I'm going to start off by creating a scripts file, new file here, and I'm going to do File, Save As. This is going to go into my scripts folder, and so that I can be consistent, asn1.js. So I'm going to call my file assignment1.js. It's a JavaScript file, and it's going to be stored in my scripts folder. And there it is right there. So this is my JavaScript file. And I'm going to jump back over to assignment 1, and then also up here I'm going to put a script tag. Now with the opening and closing script tag, there's probably not going to be anything in there. So what I'm going to do is in the opening script tag, I'm going to put a source equals scripts/assignment1.js. It's right there. I can just click it. Cool. So there's nothing in between my opening and closing script tag. Sometimes there is. I'm just going to close that up just so we can see. I do have the full opening and closing script tag, but I'm not going to have anything inside of it. Now, kind of like I did with CSS, I want to make sure my external CSS is connected to my web page. Well, I want to make sure my external JavaScript is connected to my web page. And that's going to be pretty easy to do. I just head over to my JavaScript file, and I'll just put a little note to myself right up here. check for JS connection, and I'm going to put in console.log you are connected. Yeah, that's all I'm going to do. So what does this really mean? Well, let's find out if things are working like I think they should. I'm going to head back over here, go to my assignment 1, and look at this in my console log. Let me zoom in on that. Zoom in just a little bit more there. Okay, so now whenever I go to my assignment 1 script samples page, I see this little message that says you are connected. So what's going on here is basically there's an object called the console, and there's a property called log. There's actually several properties for console that we'll get into pretty soon, so you can see some differences here. But I'm kind of a fan, especially while learning, to play around with this console log, and it's a way for us to display output that a user typically doesn't go look at, but it's good while we're working on our scripts to see what's going on. We're going to use this multiple times, I promise you. So it says you are connected. Basically, if my script was not properly connected, so for instance, if I made a typo in my, let's say I typed SCR instead of SRC, so now that's broken. So if I go back to my web page, look at this, I don't get the you are connected up there. See, it's not working. So if I have this typed right, source, then you are connected is back. If I go to my JavaScript, what if I had a mistake here? What if I forgot that dot and just did console log like this? I go here, look at that. Not only do I not get the you are connected, it even tells me about a potential error. There's a reference error. Console log is not defined. It doesn't know what that means. And it tells me that on my JavaScript file, on line number 2, I have a potential mistake. So I go to my JavaScript file and I look at line number 2 and I stare at it and I look and see what the mistake is. So in this mistake, console.log is what I want there. Notice there's console.error, console.warn, console.info. There's different things that we can do. Promise you we'll be doing those later on. So, all right, so now I can see perfect. My external JavaScript file is connected. All right, we're doing great. All right, now here we get to the fun stuff. Make 3 obvious divisions on your web page with headline 2 elements for the rest of this assignment. You can use divs, section tables, whatever. It should be clear to the visitor as they scroll that there are 3 distinct parts to your web page. Okay, so here's what I'm going to do on mine. I'm going to make 3 distinct parts on my web page. I'm going to head over to this assignment 1. I'm going to use an article with a headline 2, and this is going to be script 1, and I need a name for this script. I don't know what the name's going to be yet. But that's going to be in there, and I'm going to have some stuff in there. So I'm going to copy that, paste, and then I'm going to do script number 2 and script number 3. Okay, and in fact, I think what I'll do, I'm going to wrap all of these. I want to do a div. I'll do a section. Okay, I'm going to do a section with ID main. Now I know there's some of you in class, you're like, hey Ralph, isn't there a main div? I'm sorry, isn't there a main tag? Yeah, there is. I'm just not using it. Trying not to throw too much stuff at you, but I wanted to do this at least. And I'm going to select all of these and I'm going to tab to indent those. Okay, so now I've got 3 distinct articles within my main section. I'm going to do some quick styling on those, because if I just look at these on my page now, they're not going to look that fancy. So I think what I'll do is I'm going to jump over to my page styles. Bear with me for a moment here. But let's see, I'm going to do section main. Some of you have seen this stuff before. Display flex. I haven't done this myself in a while, so we'll see what happens here. I think that's good for now. Justify content. I think center. I'm going to try that first. Let's see what I'm getting myself into. section main, and then I'm going to do article. Flex10 auto, I think is what I want. No, I don't want that. I want 10 40%. I want to make sure I can really see these. I'm going to do a background color of 222 and a foreground color of EEE. Let's see. What is this getting me into? Okay. It's not exactly what I was expecting, so I just, this is where sometimes I have to go back and kind of relearn some stuff from HTML. Let's make sure. Let's see, I've got display flex, that's good. I need to do flex flow, row wrap, row space wrap. Okay, that's kind of getting me what I want actually, and you just can't, you don't notice it. So I'm going to give myself a nice big margin of 24 pixels on those articles. There we go. That's kind of what I was looking for, I think. Yeah, so I'm going to have these clear sections. Now I know that one looks a little funky down there all by itself. If I had a fourth one though, it would look a little bit better. Now if I didn't do, what if I did this as 0, 0, 40%? I like that better. Okay, everybody, all right, what's up with that? Okay, let me do this too. Padding 8 pixels, get some space in there. Cool, I'm happy with that. Article H2s, text align center, color orange. Cool, I'm feeling good about that, and my color's getting pretty hideous. I'll probably be changing colors out maybe in next week or week 3 or something. I'm not really good with colors and stuff like that, so I have to go to websites and use little cheat sites that'll give me good color schemes and stuff. Okay, feeling pretty good about that. All right, I got my clear sections. That's going to be obvious. Okay, and each of these 3 sections create some small scripts that does something when the user clicks a button. These can be super simple. So in order to do this assignment well, this means that you have already gone through the resources. For instance, you've already seen the video here on creating and styling web page buttons. So you probably know all about buttons there. So if you haven't done that, that's why those resources are there. Head back over, take some time, it doesn't take a lot of time, watch that video, and then you can make your buttons on your assignment page. So obviously for this, I need to have some buttons, and then when people click these buttons, it's going to do things to the web page. These can be super simple. Try scripts that you read about using the week 1 resources. Ideas could be changing background color for the page. Yeah, we'll try that one. Display a photo image when the user clicks a button. That could be fun. Change the font being displayed when the user clicks. Be kind of neat, I guess. Displaying some text if text isn't there. Changing the button text for button. All right, we'll try. I might do one of these here, and then I'll just kind of show you that I've got all 3 of them done. So let's see. Let's go ahead and play around with this. I'm going to head over to my assignment 1 page. I'm going to focus on my first one. Here we're going to go. Let's do change background color. Yeah, in fact, there was a neat little script in our book. I might jump over and use that as a reference. It's kind of a neat one. So change the background color. And it gave me an opportunity to kind of use some more terminology with you too. It's kind of cool. So let's see. Change the background color. Well, I need a button. Of course I do. So I'm going to use a button tag. And I'll call it change background color. I'm very creative with these names, right? Now, since my button here is going to be referenced with some JavaScript, I need to give this button an ID. And this is going to be S1 for script 1. And BG color. S1 BG color. So for an ID like this, it's okay to have a number, but you never want to start with a number, okay? So variable names and IDs for objects, always start them off with a letter. Now I could be using camel case here. So I could do something like S1 back color. So with camel case, you start off with lowercase letters, and then with each subsequent word you do an uppercase letter to start it off. It makes it a little bit easier to read. So yeah, I like that. Now you can do like underscores in there too. So I kind of like that. So script1 underscore back color. That's my my ID. I think that's pretty good. Now of course, as soon as I put a button on my page, that's how it looks. So I'm going to take a quick moment. I'm going to pause my recorder while I do this because you've got that other video to watch on styling buttons. But I'm going to style my buttons so that they look good. Okay, I'm back. Just did some some button styling. I put some buttons on my other little sections there, so now I've got some button action. And they don't do any exciting when I click because I haven't attached any scripts to them, but they kind of stand out now as buttons. So I'm pretty happy with those on my page. Nothing fancy. I just have I'm just using the button tag, and then I created a separate style sheet. Called form element styles, and these are just going to have styles for form elements, buttons, checkboxes, text boxes, radio buttons, those kinds of things. And so I've got some styling for my buttons. Now I'm styling different buttons in the same way, just in case I use other style buttons. They're all going to have that same color scheme, and I can always come back to the CSS file and change it. Now since I'm using an additional CSS file on my web page, I did have to reference 2 CSS files, but that's cool. One style is just going to be for my page look, my page colors and stuff, and the other style sheet is going to be for my button elements and other form elements and things like that. Not too critical to do that, but I wanted to do it anyway. Now, I'm still working on this first assignment. I haven't really got to the JavaScript yet. But basically, now I need to write a script so when somebody clicks that first button, it's going to change the background color of my web page. Okie doke. So let's see. Now my button has a name. There it is. It's right there. S1 underscore back color. Head over to my JavaScript file. Okay, I'm going to use a little comment. So I'm doing a single line comment. I typically use single line comments instead of multi-line comments. That way, even if I'm doing multiple lines, you know, I can, it just kind of, that double slash kind of draws my eye to it. Just a habit of mine, but nothing wrong with using a multi-line comment, which is slash asterisk and then asterisk slash. But I'm going to do that. Now here's my first script. Now for my first script, what do I want to do? I think I'm going to do a function. So I'm going to do a function kind of what's called longhand, basically. So I'm going to write the word function, and I'm going to call this S1 change color. That's the name of my function. And in fact, I can do, come on, there we go, an empty set of parentheses is fine. And I'm going to do a set of curly braces. So the name of my function, and then in between these curly braces is where I'm going to do the things that I want this function to do. So let's see, I need to get, well, yeah, I just need to decide what color I want to have happen. That's going to be pretty easy, I think. So basically when the user clicks that button, this function is going to be called, or invoked is the word. I'm going to invoke this function, and I think it's going to be pretty easy. I just need to know the syntax for changing the background color of the page. So basically, if you know some of the CSS properties, like we know to change the background color of a page with CSS, where's it at? I use background dash color. Now that's not going to work for JavaScript, and that's where one of our resources is really going to come in handy. So let me look over on our web browser here. I'm just going to go over to W3 schools background color. I'm just doing a search, and I'm looking for the background color CSS property. Now if you know the CSS property, still look it up on W3 schools, because what they have on here, I can scroll down a little bit. There's the CSS syntax. That's cool. Yeah. Example, example, example. Okay. Here's what I'm looking for. It's really subtle. the HTML DOM reference. DOM stands for Document Object Model, and that's critical with JavaScript. And notice the HTML DOM reference is background, lowercase letter, and then color, uppercase C, no spaces though, background color property. Now I can click on that to get more information, and this is going to show me the background color for JavaScript. So whenever you see that DOM, that's JavaScript. So I'm using what I know about CSS from the 195 class in order to get me closer to the answer in JavaScript. And now I can really see, document.body.style.background color equals red. I'm going to try that. Now I'm not going to copy and paste. That's kind of a cop-out. So let's type that here. Back on my script file, document.body.style.background color equals quote red. Now a couple things going on here. For one thing, document, body, style, those are all lowercase letters, just like in the example that I was seeing up here. Document, body, style, all lowercase letters. And they've got this thing, it's called dot notation. So that dot notation is how we write out our JavaScript statements, for most of them anyway. And sometimes it's better to read this from right to left. From the far left, it's very general and broad. It's the entire document. On the far right, it's the very specific thing we're doing. So if I was reading this right to left, it'd say, well, I'm going to change something red. Well, what am I going to change? The background color. The background color, well, what is that? Well, that's a style. Well, what am I changing the style of? I'm changing the style of the body. The body of what? Well, my whole document. So the document is the big main overreaching part. Specifically, the body of the document. Specifically, the style of the body. More specifically, the background color of that style. And then what background color do I want? I want red. So there we go. So now that we've got that, there's a couple ways we can, nothing's going to happen, by the way, because the button still is not connected to this little function here. Well, we have to connect them, and there's a couple ways we can do it. Early on, here's one way. You can go to your HTML side of things, and right in that little button tag, right in the opening button tag, you can do onClick equals, I already forgot the name of my function. What is it? S1 change color. S1 change color parentheses. There we go. So basically, when somebody clicks on this button, it's going to invoke that particular function. Let's see if this works. Let's see over here. I don't think I needed to refresh. I'm going to click on my change background color button. There we go. So now we got that red background color, and I didn't see any errors pop up in my console log, so that's pretty nice. So by clicking on that, cool, changed it over to red. If I refresh this page, it'll go back to the original state. I'll try it again. Just click that button. Goes red. I'm digging that. It's a little too bright for my taste, so instead of this bright red, I might do a pound sign and then something like 900, which is still red, but it's just not as bright. So be a kind of more darker, softer red, I guess, more muted. All right, well, that's pretty darn easy. I'm perfectly cool with that. So that's one way to do it right there, is just put a little on-click event handler right inside of the element that the person is clicking on, and then it'll look for that particular function. So that's a cool way to do it. It's not the only way, though. I kind of like that being there, but I think I'll get rid of that. So what if I don't want to change the HTML? I don't want to add that event handler there. Well, what I can do instead, for instance, that's gone, by the way, so I've basically, these aren't connected anymore. I can't click this button and do anything. So I'm going to go back to my JavaScript, and right after the function, I'm going to put in an event listener. So the way I'm going to write this is going to be document.getElement by ID. So I need to know the ID for my button, okay? So if you recall, my button is S1 underscore back color. S1 underscore back color. Dot add event listener, and then I have to decide, well, what is the event in question? In this case, the event is going to be a click. So on click, and then I'm going to do a comma, and then I need the name of my function, which is S1 change color. Now I don't need the parentheses there. So it's a slightly different syntax. Let me go ahead and test this. Let's make sure it works, and then I'll explain to you the various parts here. All right, I think I've got that all written properly. Head back. Oh, I got an error. So if I refresh this, that error is still going to be there. Uncaught type error. Cannot read properties of null reading. Add event listener. Okay, so I must have a little syntax error in there. It is on my line 8. I'm just reading from the far left just to make sure. Document.get element by ID. That looks pretty darn good to me. I'm wondering, I might need to be using double quotes here. Let's see if that makes the big difference. Let's see if that's it. Nope, still something wrong. All right, let me look closely here. Oh, it just dawned on me. This is the thing that I wanted to show you at the very beginning. I totally forgot. So let me take you back real quick here. Back in these assignment directions up here, it was right in here. Depending on the scripts you create, having the script tag at the bottom of the body may be easier. However, let me put this in bold on the directions. I forgot this part, and this is what's happening. So let me show you something that works, and then I'll explain to you why my previous one didn't work. Cool, so I've got that one. So here's what I'm going to do. I'm going to head back to my assignment 1 page. I'll watch this little trick here. I'm going to take my script, I'm going to cut it out of the head section, and I'm going to paste it all the way down here at the bottom of the body. Okay? Check this out. Go back here, back to my assignment 1. Look at that, no error. No error message. Change background color, red, it works. Okay, so what was going wrong with the previous way? I'm glad this happened, really, because it's an opportunity to explain it to you, and then if and when it happens to you, you'll understand. So let me Control Z. I'm going to put this back where it was. Okay, now my script is back up in the head section. Now when a web page loads, it's read line by line from top to bottom. So what's happening on my web page? When this assignment 1 loads, you know, the doc type definition gets read, meta tag up there gets read, the title gets read, my style sheet loads up, then this other style sheet loads up in that order, and then my script loads up. Now my script loads up before the body of the page. Okay? However, my script is looking for an element with an ID S1 back color. However, if the script loads up before the body of the page, well, that means this button doesn't exist yet. So my script is referring to an element that doesn't exist because I'm loading the script before the body of the page, before that button is created. So that's what's creating that error message. In fact, now that I've moved things back, I should be getting that error message again. There we go. Cannot read properties of null, reading add event listener. It doesn't know what it's listening for because that button doesn't exist. So you could see, well, one fix for that is to go to the web page, take this script, and put it down here at the bottom of the body section. That means the script won't load until after all of the stuff in the body has loaded, and that would solve that problem. Or we can also do this. You can slap in a little defer attribute, just the word defer right there in that script tag. And so basically now we're not going to get that error message because now the script knows to wait a little bit, wait for the body to load, and then do the scripting. And now when I click on my change background color, that works. Wow. Okay. So that little defer attribute is pretty nice most of the time. Sometimes you do want scripts to load up before the body of the page. I think for us, probably doing defer is pretty good. But there could be times where you have multiple external scripts. You know, you could have a script up in the head section that you want to load before the body of the page. You might have other scripts with defer, or you might have other scripts down in the body section in order to force that deferred load of the JavaScript. So just kind of a quick little recap here. The HTML is pretty simple. I've got a button with a unique ID. Now on my JavaScript, I've got a simple little function with one little statement line, and basically it's changing the background color of the page. This function is invoked whenever somebody clicks on that particular button using that syntax. So on my web page document, there's an element that has an ID. That element's ID is S1_backcolor. Now I'm listening. When somebody clicks on that button, that element, then I'm going to trigger or invoke a function that I've already created, the change color function. And of course, there it is right there. Yeah, pretty neat. Now, we can do a couple other things too. In fact, I could change the color, background color of the page, but it could also change document.getElement by ID S1_backcolor dot style dot background color equals let's do the same red. Hold on just a moment, and I'm going to do this again actually. Happen to notice just the word color, that's the foreground color, equals, and I'll just put in something like something really light. Okay, so in theory, three things are going to happen now when I click that button. Background color of the body of my page is going to change, and I'm also trying to change the background color of the button, and I'm also going to try to change the text color of the button. So let's see what we get now. So everything looks good. Click it, and there we go. See, notice my button color has changed to also that red and font. So yeah, that's pretty neat. So that's just one little button script. Now I don't think I'm going to record myself doing the others. However, I want you to notice that these scripts can be super simple based on things you see in the book. And that reminds me, let me jump over to the book because I did see a neat one in there where it changes a random color. I thought that was pretty cool. Now, where did I see that at? I'll say no to that. Here's our textbook. Let me go back. I think it was in, I can't remember if it was chapter 1. Maybe it was chapter 1. Let me just advance through here. Ah, here we go. Yeah, I thought this one was neat right here. So this is a sample of some JavaScript here. They got a couple things going on, and it's kind of neat. So basically, they're creating a variable called button, and it's getting that information so they can use its document.getElement by ID. So basically, they're making a variable to make it easier to find that button. It's kind of neat. Now, what they're doing here is they're creating an array. An array is a list of items. That's pretty cool too. So they're using colors as a variable to represent a range of colors: red, orange, yellow, green, blue, Rebecca purple, violet. Rebecca purple is kind of a neat color. I'll let you look up the history on that. But there was a really great web developer who's written a number of books. Specifically, he was a CSS expert. And for some reason, his name is slipping my mind, but he had a daughter who died of cancer, and her favorite color was purple. And so the folks in the web development community, they officially named this shade of purple Rebecca Purple after his daughter. And it's going to bother me if I can't tell you his name, so let me just do a quick, I'll jump over there. And if I just did, in fact, Eric Meyer. Eric Meyer is his name. Basically, I was going to search for reset rule. He's got a great example of a complicated reset rule. And but yeah, it's Eric Meyer. Okay, so yeah, working for the web for a long time. I've actually seen him talk a couple times, and I've had a couple of his books and stuff like that. So yeah, really cool. But that's where that color is coming from, by the way. So let's see, back over to our textbook. Yeah, and I thought this was pretty neat. So basically what this is going to do And maybe I'll do this one off camera, but I'm just going to use this as a reference. But basically, this part isn't essential, but they're declaring a variable to make it easy to find that button instead of having to write out document.getElementById multiple times. The word colors is represented by all of these. And then, of course, we've got the function to change. Gosh, that's kind of neat. I kind of want to do this one anyway with you, just so I can talk you through a few of these steps. And then they got the event listener on there. Single quotes is cool with that, by the way. Okay, let's do this one together. That's a good one. In fact, I'm going to replace my lame little changing red. That's kind of boring, right? So I'm going to head back to this one. Here's my script one. I'm going to get rid of all of that. That's too boring. Let's do something a little bit more exciting here. Now, I don't have to change anything here. Everything's all cool with that. So basically, if I follow the example here in the book, in fact, I'm going to do this. I'm going to just grab this. I'm going to take a picture of it here just so I'll just have it off to the side so I can glance at it easy enough as I'm talking about it. Because I want to do kind of what they're doing here, and I'll just kind of explain the parts to it. All right, so back on my script. Okay, so they're starting off by creating a constant variable. Variables is going to come up a little bit more in week 2, but still, it's good to have them, right? And they're calling it button. I'm going to call mine but1, but1, because I've got several buttons on this page. I don't want to get too confused by that. And that's going to be equal to document.getElementById, and then I need s1 underscore change color. Now I think that's what I called it, right? S1 back color, S1 underscore back color. Okay, so the reason I'm doing it this way, and then semicolon there to finish that off. So now I don't have to refer to document.getElementById underscore S1 back color. I can just call it but1, butt1. In fact, I'll put in 2 T's, but1, literally. So but1 now is this. So it's making our own shorthand. Instead of me having to type this out, I can just type in but1. Cool, it's going to save some time. Now the next variable, const colors equals, come on, and then we do square brackets. These square brackets is one of the ways to make an array. Array is a list of items, and they've got these all in single quotes. That's cool. Double quotes would have been fine too. We got red, we've got orange, oops, yellow, green, blue, Rebecca, purple, violet, and that is it. Cool, then we can finish that statement off. So now but1 represents this statement, document get element by ID S1 back color. The colors variable represents this array of colors. Which one? Doesn't matter. It represents the entire array of those colors. Cool. Now, the next thing is they have a function, and they called their function change. I'm going to go ahead and call it change colors. Set of curly braces. Now within that, they've got document.body.style.background. They just use background. I'm going to do background color. Background works as well. Equals. Okay, now this is where it gets interesting. They've got some wacky stuff going on. I want to explain exactly what this is. Now it looks weird too because it's split onto another line, but it's colors bracket. Okay, so let me show it to you this way. I'm just going to write in colors square bracket 0. That's all I'm going to do there, and then finish that off. Cool. We'll come back to that in just a moment. And then, of course, we have our event listener. Now, you remember the event listener I did before? I wrote document.getElementById, S1 back color, and then I did .add event listener, and then the click and that stuff. Well, since we have a variable, I can just do but1.add event listener, click, and then the function I want to do is change colors. There we go. Okay, so I've got 4 things going on here. fact, I'm going to indent all of these, I think, just to, there we go. So I'm declaring a constant variable called but1 that represents my button. I'm declaring a variable called colors, which represents an array of colors. Now I'm creating a function that will change the background color of my web page to one of the colors in the array. And then I'm going to do that, I'm going to change that color when I click on the button, my but1 button. Let's see if everything's working. I'm going to head over to my web page. That's not my web page. I'm going to go here and then to my assignment 1. Refresh, even though I don't think I need to. I'm not getting an error. That's good. Change background color. There we go. Changes it to bright red. Okay, now in an array, the first item in the array is item 0. So when I do colors square bracket 0, that means red. Therefore, if I did colors square bracket 1, that would be orange. Yellow is 2, green is 3. So if I did colors 3, we should expect to see green. 0, 1, 2, 3. And let's head back over here, click my little button, green, which means blue is 4, Rebecca purple is 5. Let's give 5 a try. Click the button, there's Rebecca purple. Nice. So what are they doing in the book though? In the book, they're not picking one color. I can't click and drag on that. You notice the square bracket. So we have the square bracket here in front of the word math, and we have the square bracket over here on the far right. So what they're doing is they're creating a random number between 0 and 6, really. Why 0 and 6? Well, we have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. I'm sorry, 0 and 7. We have 0 and 6. 0, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, and 6. So we have total of 7 numbers in there, but the first one is 0, the last one is 6. So we occasionally need a random number. Sometimes we want colors 5, sometimes we want colors 0, sometimes 6, 3, so forth and so on. Okay, so what does this really mean? So I'm going to break this down here for you. So let's look at just this one first, math random. So instead of putting specific number 5, I can put in math.random. That's a built-in function that JavaScript has. Math random produces a random number between 0 and 1. Okay, so it could produce 0.2345, or it could produce 0.9817 or 0.6543. You get my meaning, right? Okay, so they take that random number between 0 and 1 and they are multiplying it by 7. Okay, they're doing this in parentheses. That's cool. So even though that part's not necessary, so I'm not going to do that yet. 7 times. Okay, so 7 times a random number. Well, what is that going to get for us? Well, let's find out. I'm going to pop open my calculator here real quick. Here's my calculator. And let's assume we get a 7 times 0.987546. 7 times 0.987546 is going to get us 6.912. Okay, that's good. Clear. 7 times 0.012345. That's a small number, random number. Ooh, that would give us 0.08666. Okay, so 7 times the random number is going to get us these other numbers. However, it's never going to get us a 7. Here's my meaning. So 7 times 0.999, which is the highest random number it could get, is still going to be 6.99999. Okay, well this is gonna be important to know. I'll move that off to the side, because then they're taking this random number, multiplying it by 7, and then they're going to be getting the math floor of this, and this is where I wrap this part in parentheses. So the math floor means basically you get rid of the decimals. So if I have the number 6.999993 and I get rid of, and I take the floor of this, that's going to get me a 6. Okay, so that's how they're getting these random numbers 0 through 6 in order to represent these 7 colors. I know that's weird to think about. We're going to hit this again more. Certainly we have an arrays topic coming up later in the term. But basically they're using this little formula here in order to produce a random number 0 through 6, which represents the 7 colors available in this array. Interesting. Now, here's another little trick we'll get into later. What if I add more colors to my array? Well, if I add more colors to my array, then I need to increase this number 7. Well, if I wanted to make that a little bit more automated, what you can do is you can look at the length of an array, and that'll give you the number of units in there. So instead of multiplying it by 7, I could multiply it by the length of the array, which I'm not going to do right now, although it would be pretty easy. It would be basically colors.length to take care of that. But I'm not going to do that. I'm going to stick with, let me just Control Z. There we go. I'll just keep it at 7 for now. And I lost my parentheses. There we go. So I think that's going to work for us. Let's give it a try. See what happens now. So I'm going to head back over here. Blue. Click again. I'm just clicking on my change background color, and I'm getting these different colors to show up. Now sometimes they're going to duplicate because there's only 7 different colors. So sometimes a random number is going to get you the same one. But for the most part, every time I click, there's 2 oranges in a row. I'm getting that. So that is the change background color, and I hope you do that one too. It's kind of neat, and that's what I want you to do, by the way, when you're reading in your textbook. Let me close that. Don't need that. When you're reading in your textbook and you see something like this, take a few moments to try it out. It can be pretty cool, and there's a lot we can learn from it. You may not always understand exactly why they're doing what they're doing in the book, but at least it'll give you some focused questions. And then you can always, shoot me a line and say, hey, Ralph, I'm reading through this script that's on, of course, page numbers is weird on these electronic books. It's in our book, and here's a section of it. Maybe even give me a screen capture. And I'm not 100% sure why they are multiplying by 7. Why are they doing that? Because that's how many items are in the array. And we can do it a few different ways. So, yeah, that's fun. And that takes care of one of my little buttons. So I think what I will do, since I can't publish yet anyway, let me look over on our directions again. Come on. So you can do a couple more scripts that do different things. We could maybe change font family out. That would be kind of neat, maybe. Change font colors. So just play around with super simple ones. Don't do exactly the same script for each of the 3, but you can do very similar ones. Of course, knowing some CSS and knowing the CSS property translated into the JavaScript is going to be a real key to trying something new, I think. Display more text, that kind of stuff. And then part 3 is create a small script that changes the image, replace the source when the user clicks on the original image you have displayed. I kind of feel like I should do that. It's pretty similar to what we've done before. This doesn't have to be fancy. You can follow along with a demonstrated example as a guide for creating your script. Let me jump down. I'm going to do this one with you too, I think. So, changes the image, replace the source when the user clicks on an original image. Okay, this is good. So I'm going to rig it so when somebody clicks on my photo on my home page, it's going to change out to a different photo. I happen to have another photo saved on my desktop. My surly chameleon. There it is right there. Oh, you can't see that. It's on a different screen. There it is. Surly chameleon. I like that picture. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to right click on this picture. I'm going to copy it. I'm going to go into my JavaScript images, and I'm going to paste right there. And I'm going to F2 rename it. I'm just going to call it Surly. Just shorten that file name. So basically, when somebody clicks on my picture, I'm going to rig it so that this other picture replaces that picture. All right, let's give that one a shot. Okay, I'm going to just go ahead and close that. I don't need that anymore. But I want my pictures saved in my images folder. All the files that are related to your website, scripts, style sheets, images, all of that is stored ultimately in your working folder where all of your subfolders are. So that way when we do publish, everything is going to still work online like it does locally. Okay, so let's see. Let's head over to my code. I'm going to go to my index page. This is my main page where my picture is. I need to give this picture a unique ID. So I'm going to say ID equals home pick. Okay. Okay, so there's my ID. I'm doing a little camel case. There's my home picture ID. That's going to be important so I can find this, or the script can find this image and also change out the source of the image. Okay, so there's my home pick. Now let me jump over to my JavaScript file. So there's my script 1. Of course, I'm going to have script 2 and script 3 on there. But I'm also going to have, this is going to be my change home picture script. And I think I'm going to do a function again. Function. Now, I do like that they're declaring variables outside of the function, because then that's indicating that these variables could be used by other functions. Not critical in this situation, so I think I will keep it all the same. So I'm going to say this is going to be function change home pick. Set of parentheses, curly braces. So within my function, I am going to do multiple things. I'm going to do the let keyword for declaring a variable. I'm going to let home pick, I'll do all lowercase, is going to be equal to document.get element by ID, and then I always forget what I call these things. Home pick, camel case. There we go. That's all I want. So I want my home pick. I could do capital K. I could do this too. That's okay. So that way it's a little more consistent. So I've got my home pick variable, which is going to represent the image that's on my index page. All right, got that. That's cool. Yeah, this should be pretty easy, I suppose. Now I'm going to take my home pick dot source. The source is a property of that home picture object, and that's going to be equal to images slash surly. I don't know how to spell surly. S-U-R-L-E-Y. I guess we'll find out soon enough. .jpg. Okay, I think that's all I need there. Of course, then I need my event listener. And I can just do, oh, see, this is where, if I do home pick right now, dot add event listener, that's going to be a problem. Click, and then I want change home pick. Because by using my let keyword, this variable is only part of this function, this block, and it's not necessarily available outside of the function. So that's a good reason for putting this variable declaration outside of the function. So I'm going to do it this way. Let's see how this works. So basically I've got this home picture, and it represents the actual picture that's on my web page. I got this home pick variable. There's a function which is going to change the source of that variable to images surly JPG, and then here's the event listener. When I click on that home picture, it should invoke that function change home pick. All right, fingers. I can't cross my fingers. I need finger flexibility. All right, I think that's going to work. Let's find out. Head back over to our web page. Assignment 1. I need to go back to my index. I need to make a hyperlink on here that goes back to the index. That would be smart. I'll do that later, I think. Okay. Oops. So here it is. I'm not getting an error. That's good. Oh, you know what I'm missing though? Watch, when I click, nothing happens. My index homepage doesn't know about my JavaScript page. So back onto the old Codorino. So basically, I need to make sure that I've got this script line on my index page. put it right up there. Now I'm getting an error though. It doesn't like, obviously, line 13. It doesn't like my add event listener. Let's make sure I've got everything written properly. See, it doesn't like, line 13 is up here. Even though that looks okay. Did I screw something up here? Even though that one was working, right? Oh, okay. Here's the problem. Yeah, this is okay. So here's what I'm going to do. Basically, my index page, of course, doesn't have these variables anymore. So this is the problem of using the same big script file on multiple pages that doesn't need it. So here's what I'm going to do. I'm going to take this entire chunk of script. I'm going to cut it. I'm going to take that off my assignment 1 external script. That's good. That's saved. And then I can go to my index page. I'm not going to refer to this. Instead, what I will do is I'm going to head down to the body of my page, all the way down here. Script, paste. And let's indent. And then indent. All right, so here's what I'm doing. My index page is not going to refer to my external script file because there's so many little scripts that don't apply to that home page. So that was not a good move on my part. Instead, I'm just going to work this script, and I'm putting it at the end of the body section so everything loads up. Let's save all of that. Back over here, things are looking pretty good. Click on my picture. Oh, so I must have, okay. So surly, I must not be an E. I always forgot what it is. Let me, just S-U-R-L-Y. So I'll just change that out. That should do it. Click on my picture. There's my little surly chameleon. Refresh, change it back. There you go. Whew, okay. So that takes care of part 3. Now I still need to finish up part 2 of this assignment, but I'm going to do that off camera, I think. I'm going to use very similar techniques to what you just saw, though. Create a small script that changes the image, replace the source when the user clicks on the original image you have displayed. Doesn't have to be fancy. Submitting your assignment, still need to publish. Like I said, I still need to finish up our web server account so we can publish. But this, but yeah, have fun with this. Play around with it, and yeah, cool. Thanks for hanging out with me. Take care.